So now these checklists are for, I'm assuming business owners and also developers, right? This is something that I would want to send it to someone and say, hey, can you do all this?
Well, so they're not for, I mean, yes, they can be for developers, but they're not going to be complete. Like it doesn't tell you like, hey, here's what you, like, it doesn't say exactly what you need to do, but on that topic, what I haven't released.
Keep this in mind, like, here's what you should be doing when you're going through the audit, right? That was my understanding. Like, you're not giving a step-by-step, you're saying, hey, when you do an audit, this is what you should be looking at. First of all, like you mentioned, the audit needs to be manual, which means it's time consuming. It's I can't use any kind of software to kind of cut through that. And then when you remediate, these are the things. This is what you need to be doing to make it ADA compliant, right? Or am I misunderstanding that?
Think of the guides as I am giving you the cheat sheets to the web content accessibility guide.
Okay.
But what I'm doing is I'm going to take that a step further. And in January, so within a month, I am going to have an ADA compliance course where I do tell you not only what the most common issues in litigation are, the most common claims, how to remediate them. So if anybody has a developer skill set, you will be able to go in and, in effect, audit your website and then also remediate it. And it's just like, think of it as like, hey, what can I hand to my developer to give them a step-by-step guide on what to do?
That is awesome. I mean, Chris, you gotta definitely send me the link, and I would definitely love to market that and promote it for you, because I think that would be phenomenal. I do know developers who don't know. They simply don't know, right? I mean, the reality is, in my experience, practically speaking, people will say, hey, make me a pretty website, or I want this, and there's no consideration, because I think you mentioned in one of the videos that, the reality is that sometimes you're using a lot of images, and if it's not being updated all the time, for example, if you're doing fresh content on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, and that's not accessible, or there's no alt text to it, you can get yourself in trouble. Like your content people need to be also aware of this, which I thought was a great practical application, because the reality is a lot of these teams don't talk to each other, right? So people get content from somewhere else. They have the developer is a separate person, and they're not talking to each other. And so I loved your practical advice that, hey, they should be talking to each other, and they should be doing content that's easier to be able to, that's accessible.
And the good thing is, what you really need for accessibility that is not focused in on is training, because this doesn't have to be a continual cascade of problems, right? Like, oh, I've resolved one accessibility issue and now here's 5 more, and it's just like it never ends. And then there's just like this this notion of giving up, because it's like, well, what can we do? Because I often hear, well, WCAG 2.1 AA conformance is impossible, we'll never get there. You actually can. It just takes a dedicated, concerted effort. But once you have trained your personnel, this becomes a part of the process. Remember when responsive websites were difficult, like websites on mobile didn't resolve well?
Right.
That got taken care of really quickly. Accessibility is going to be the same thing. Once it becomes common knowledge, everybody's going to bake it into their process, and it won't be nearly the burden it is when you first get started.